Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is an introductory look at the world of sync licensing. A lot of people have asked me what it even is. And so if you're already in the world of sync licensing, you understand what it is, you're already doing it. This probably isn't for you. This is really just a beginner look at what this is all about. And I've kind of my own interpretation of the sync world. I've figured out that there's really just two paths to approaching it, kind of depending on who you are, what your goals are. So I will go into that and like really showing you the two paths and how you might want to approach it based on your goals. First of all, a few definitions. Sync is short for synchronization licensing, which is referring to the licensed music creators, or actually the people who own the master recording, the copyright owner. They issue a license to people who want to use the music in anything visual. So movies, TV shows, ads, websites, even TikTok is considered violating copyright law by not having licenses. So they're actually still in the process of making sure that all of that is legal within the bounds of copyright law. I'm not sure where they're at in that process, and hopefully that'll all be sorted out soon so that people who own the songs that become viral and are trending are actually getting not just validation, but monetary gain for their creations. Next definition, music supervisor is the person who chooses music for every moment of a film or a show, TV show or series. Sometimes the composer and the music supervisor might be the same person, especially on low budget films. There's also, I didn't mention here, but if you're talking about advertisement music for ads, that person would not be called a music supervisor. That's just the ad agency has a in-house person that might seek out the best music for an ad. I'm not really sure what that person would be called because I don't know that world very well, but they would not be called music supervisor. Music supervisor is the term specifically for film, most of the time for film. A music library is a library of music, just like you would go to a library for books. There are libraries for music. If you're the music supervisor and you're looking for music, you can search the database of a music library and search based on things like mood or tempo or a genre or the type of vocal, female vocal, male vocal, instrumental. Even like I want songs that have a banjo in them or a mandolin or a marimba. You know, you can be really specific in your search with the music libraries. A sync agent is a person who could be an independent person, which I sometimes act as a sync agent for people once in a while, or it can be part of a larger agency. That person is like the go-between between music supervisors and creative or creator, the master recording owners, copyright owners. Wow, it's early. Can you tell? They will often take a cut of the sync fee, the sync agent will, and might also work in a percentage cut of the master mechanical royalty that might accumulate with the use. Production music is the common term used for background music, but it may have vocals. It doesn't mean just instrumentals, it's just background music. Music libraries will often compile albums of production music by theme, a specific mood or a genre. The licensing is already handled with the creator by these production music companies or music libraries, which makes it very easy for music supervisors to find the song, license it. The world of music, well, movie making, as I'm sure you know, based on if you've ever watched behind the scenes of movies, it's just now. And they don't want to have to mess with waiting for, oh, we need this songwriter's signature on this agreement. And, imagine maybe they have like 20 different songs they need licenses for. What a nightmare trying to get all of that worked out. So when they license songs directly from a production music company or a music library, they know the licensing, all of the signatures are there. All of the metadata is correct. They don't have to worry. They just say, yep, I want to license that. Here's what we're going to pay. And then they generate a cue sheet, which we'll talk about later. I put these little album covers here because these are albums put together by production music companies for this production music genre. It's kind of like its own world. They put these albums together. This one, Phenomenal Women, I have a song that's on this, but it's full of just female composers compiled by Empath, who is a music library. And so the theme of this album is women composers. But if you listen to every single piece of music on it, they're very, very different. They're not genre specific. But that was really awesome to be included on that compilation. And you can see gender parity achieved at Empath. With this album, they achieved gender parity, which means they have just as many female composers as male composers, which is a new thing. It's very novelty. This is like the only music library that's been able to achieve that, which should tell you a lot about our industry. This one, Wanna Party Music, The Holidays, Volume 4, a song that Kai and I wrote together and I produced, ended up on this compilation, and it's Wanna Party music that's like really hyper pop kind of stuff, but in the holiday genre. And so that ended up on that album. And I don't think we've gotten any use on that one, but it is in that album. Now, one of the big, I think, one of the most important things you really need to first understand is that not all music works for sync. It doesn't mean that's not good music or great music. It just, not all music works for sync. And until you really start listening carefully to what kind of music is used, it's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly what it is. So you're going to do a little listening exercise. You can do it after you watch this all the way through, or go ahead and pause this and come back to it later. But what I want you to do is just take a little bit of time and watch all of the shows that you watch a movie, watch some YouTube videos, and just take note of the music that you hear. If you can zone out what's happening on screen, or if you're like me, I've been listening to the background music long enough. When I was first introduced to the world of sync licensing, it was 15 years ago. And, it was kind of like, whoa, all of a sudden you're noticing things that were there that you didn't notice before. And so I can't really watch shows or listen, watch a movie without noticing the music, because I've just trained my brain that after so many years. And my poor husband, we'll be sitting there watching a show and I'll just be like, oh my gosh, that's like a sound alike of such and such song. And he's like, well, what are you even talking about? So anyway, I want you to just kind of do your normal television movie stuff, but just focus on the music and pay attention to what's happening. First thing you're going to notice is there's a lot of music, like it changes. You could watch a half-an-hour documentary and every 30 seconds, there's a new something happening with the music. The mood changes. And now all of a sudden we're listening to something with like this weird techno stuff. And then all of a sudden you're hearing this little acoustic guitar with a female vocal. And, it will dramatically change based on what mood they're trying to give you visually. So it's really going to be a fun exercise for you, or at least I hope it will. So everything that you hear when you do this listening exercise was composed, created by a person or persons. Now, again, let's go over some of these definitions. A composer can be a part of the production for the show or the movie. So when you're watching the end credits of a show, it might say music by or composed by, all music composed by one particular person, but then there might also be additional songs that they credit at the end, and you'll see, like usually it's got a record label and an artist and all the BMI or ASCAP information. So look carefully at the end credits of a movie, and you're going to see probably a composer, a music supervisor, and then a bunch of chunks of songs, and those credits, those were individually licensed and not created by the composer. Production music, again, albums are created in themes, and here's that Phenomenal Women album. I think one of my song that was on that album got licensed to a casino, like their web ad. I just got the statement for it like a few weeks ago. I was like, oh, cool. But I couldn't find it. I was looking for it online, couldn't find it. So anyway, that was kind of cool. And then songs licensed via music library or direct to music soup. So one movie or series or television show or documentary could have one of each of these, could have a composer, could have background music that was from a production music album, such as the Phenomenal Women one, or it could randomly have a bunch of standalone songs that are licensed to it. And then cue sheets are submitted to the pros. In the US, it's BMI, ASCAP, and SESAC are the main ones. And the cue sheets include everything about how that your song was used. So was it 32 seconds and it was under dialogue? Was it just the instrumental, or did it have the vocal in it? All of those factors will determine how much the pro ends up paying you. This is why the metadata of your music is really, really important. So when you do submit a song to a library, if they say, yes, we want your song, they're going to be very, very particular about having all of the information correct, and that your song is already registered with your pro. As far as I know, every music library I've worked with, they always want your song already registered. So when you are finished with the song and you submit it, it's best to go ahead and register it with your pro at that time. Anyway, the metadata is very important because that's how we're getting paid. Okay, now the two paths. This is, again, just my own ideas, according to Becky. Okay, path one. This is all about creating, and it's a numbers game. It's like the more placements that you get, the more you can actually build your career just on doing sync licensing. So this scenario is ideal for you if you can create independently, meaning you have a fairly decent studio setup and you can produce and record your own instrumentation. Even if that means you need to hire a session vocalist or a guitarist or whatever, but you're pretty independent and you can create a finished product on your own. Also, you have relationships with several other creators, and together you can create these finished, polished productions. If you really, really love creating, if you're driven by the need to create and not necessarily to perform or develop a following as an artist, this can be a great avenue for you. I think that was why sync licensing and production music was kind of really appealing to me at first when I learned about it, was because I'm not trying to be an artist. I really actually don't like performing as a solo person. I enjoy being in bands or, choirs or whatever. I love performing with a group, but I don't want to be the center of attention. But my real joy comes in creating in the studio. But I love working with artists. Anyway, we'll get more into that, but I want to produce for and with artists. And so that's why I'm in path two. Anyway, we'll get to that. Another reason why you might want path one, you don't want to be boxed into one particular style or genre as a creator. Another reason, you have the ability to create either alone or with collaborators quickly. And again, that kind of goes back to if you have your own setup and you can do everything on your own, it helps you, you can just turn things out pretty quickly. And the more quickly you can turn material out, you know, you could put together 20 pieces of music by the end of the week. That means you belong in path one. Last thing, you can create either alone or with collaborators in multiple genres. If you are working specifically with a production music company, then you'll get briefs probably weekly, and there'll be everything from, we need a piano ballad like Louis Capaldi, we need a Ariana Grande soul R&B, you know, just everything. And so the more genres you can produce, then the better your chances of getting multiple sync placements. And the more you get, then of course that means the more income you can get. Now here's the thing about path one, income is very slow coming. If you get hundreds of tracks out there in libraries, they might be sitting in a library for a couple of years before they even get a placement for it. And then it's like 9 months later before you see anything from your pro. So this is definitely not going to be like, okay, I'm going to go full-time path one and make millions of dollars. You got to kind of do this on the side unless you're independently wealthy or you're not, you know, you don't have to create income. If you need income, then you probably will want to try maybe path two. Path two is more artist driven and you can target specific songs. This would be if you're an artist who is focusing on building your artistic brand, creating songs that connect with your fan base, creating music that you love and intend on performing, or you are like me and you're focused on producing music for artists. This path is ideal for you if you have a song or two that could work for sync. You're an artist who is looking for opportunities to expand your fan base. There's quite a history of artists that have blown up because of some really amazing sync placements. Christina Perri is one. Her song Jar of Hearts was on Think You Can Dance. She was already working and as an artist and had already released music. That song popped on from being on that show, and then all of a sudden she's like mainstream artist. Melanie Martinez is another one where she was on The Voice and was getting a little bit of recognition here and there, and I think she signed a record deal. They got a couple of songs in American Horror Story, and I mean the rest is history. That just kind of defined her. So she was not intentionally creating music for that show, but it fit so perfectly that it kind of defined her as being like this creepy dark artist, I think. And the American Horror Story fan base was like, oh my gosh, I love Melanie Martinez because she's got that dark creepiness going on. And obviously if you love American Horror Story, you love dark creepiness. So that's like, there's tons of examples of artists who had who were focused on being an artist and then had a song placed in something very prominent that just helped them blow up. If you love being an artist and you want to find additional income streams, there is no harm in just shooting some torpedoes and trying to get some songs placed. You love being an artist who you're really focused on like the performing aspect and connecting with fans. That's your main bread and butter and your main focus as an artist. Last, if you're a producer who loves working with artists for the sake of building their catalog of songs, that's really, I love that. I have a hard time feeling inspired by myself. And so when I'm working with an artist, I feel like that stretches me, that inspires me, that helps me be more creative. If it's just me in the studio, I feel like a little bit of that blank canvas syndrome, like, I don't know. So anyway, I'm on path two, and I don't know, maybe over the years I might shift and be like, you know, I want to focus more on just creating a bunch of content. Now, I forgot to mention on path one, You can start out by pitching to libraries, sync agents, production music companies, stock music companies. Path 2, same thing, start by pitching to libraries and sync agents, or there are music publishers that will pitch for sync opportunities. Here's a few important companies, contacts, and resources. NARIP, National Association of Record Industry Professionals. I subscribe to their email. The membership is kind of pricey. It's like 300 and something a year. And I've never felt the need to join, but they do have pretty regular like master classes. Sometimes they're in LA, but sometimes they are via virtual. I don't know what platform they use. And they sometimes, as a non-member, you can come to one of those virtual panels. You just pay like $30, but they have pitch sessions with sync agents often. So that would be worth looking into. Taxi is a middleman company. This is where I got my very first sync placements 15 years ago, was from Taxi. I think Taxi is great because they not only are they a middleman, but they can educate you on how to better write for the briefs. They send out a weekly huge list of companies looking for music. Sometimes it's record labels looking for artists even, but a lot of more these days, it's libraries and music soups and production companies looking for specific music that they want to license. And seeing the brief listing can be very, very helpful. So you know what is happening in this world, what kind of music people are looking for. But also Taxi is very, very passionate about educating artists and songwriters and producers, helping them get better. Their annual membership, I think, is like $200. But that includes their annual Taxi Road Rally, which is like this big 3-day, 4-day convention, worth the $200 in and of itself, hands down. Of course, the last couple of years it's been virtual, and I would have a hard time saying, oh yeah, that's worth $200. But it's probably still amazing. I didn't attend it, but every time you submit, there is a $5 submission fee. And I really believe that's more to create friction so that people are not just submitting every song to every brief. But sometimes they will give you a review of those songs included in that $5 submission fee. And that was what really, really changed my life. This, again, 15 years ago. It was so long ago that it was all, you had to mail in your CDs. You had to mail in your CDs, and you put like a little sticker on the CD with the listing number and the title and all this stuff, and your own name and membership number. And then you'd later get in the mail the review sheet, like typed up. I mean, how long ago is that? 15 years ago. That's not that long ago, and yet the world is like so different. That kind of blows my mind. But anyway, the first year I was a member, everything was rejected because I didn't yet know what I was doing. And the rejection letters were kind of disheartening, but I was getting enough feedback and repeated words of wisdom from these people who were reviewing the submissions that I was like, okay, wait, I need to work on my craft before I'm ready to start pitching. So the second year, after really working on getting better at writing, specifically my lyrics, that's what I was always getting hammered on, was my lyric writing. Well, I started getting forwards, is what they call it, where they will say, okay, yep, we're going to forward this to the client. And that's when I started getting my first sync placements, which was really awesome. Another company, APM Music, they're like the hub of a bunch of music libraries. So Empath is under the APM Music umbrella, I guess you can call them. But they have this really cool, first of all, every library in their family is on this database, apmmusic.com/libraries. But then you can also filter that search. So if you want to find a library that's looking for something very specific, you can, like the female composers, you can search that out and find some libraries that are looking for your particular brand and style. Music Business Watch, that's this magazine right here. It's like 100 and something a year, but you get this monthly magazine that is actually giving you the information that you would need, like what movies and TV shows are in post-production, who's looking for music, and direct contact information to music supervisors. So it's pretty much a gold mine. Of course, they're going to tell you specifically what they're looking for, and please do not pitch things that they're not looking for. Same with Music Connection magazine. I love Music Connection magazine. They put out directories. One month it might be like producers, and then another month it'll be voice teachers, recording studios. But they also put out a music supervisor directory, which is, again, it's a gold mine. And they will tell you specifically how to submit to them. If they're looking for submissions, they'll say, we will accept submissions this way, and you follow their directions spot on, you have a better chance of getting your music heard. Stock music sites, you can just Google stock music sites and see what comes up. There's just tons of them. Of course, that's the low hanging fruit. You're going to get like the lowest amount of money through the stock music sites. But again, if you're on path one and you've got just tons and tons and tons of instrumentals or music that's just sitting on your hard drive, not doing anything, you're not releasing it, this is a great way to see if you can get some micro licenses, is what they call them. Musicops.com, they have pretty regular briefs, usually looking for music for like a company that does all the background music for national airports, or they sometimes are looking for music videos that are high quality to put in all the Target stores. And so they're another middleman company, which a lot of times we need these middleman companies because imagine if you're the person, like a music supervisor for a movie, and there's just millions of songwriters and artists trying to get their music in a movie. there has to be some gatekeeping going on. So a lot of these companies are middleman, which is fine. That's just the way it has to be. And then I found this article or a website, musiclibraryreport.com. If you just want to learn more about production music, it's a pretty good site. It's, not beautiful site, but it just has a lot of great information. As soon as I was really trying to write for film and TV, I bought this book, Shortcuts to Songwriting for Film and TV, because I was a little confused about, there's, they tell you very specifically the songs that you, if you want to place in a film or TV, they cannot be too specific or they just won't work. So if it's a song that's like about, drinking my coffee in a cafe and you walked up to me, how can they use that for any scene other than a cafe scene, right? So the more unspecific the lyrics are, the better. But then the lyrics still have to be really, really good. So that kind of eluded me for a while. I was like, how do I write lyrics that are good, that are not specific? And she goes into that quite a bit and has some exercises in helping your brain think outside of the box. Because for so many years, I was focused on detail, 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 write with detail in the lyrics. Give us imagery, give us as much information as possible. And then now I'm like, oh, don't. So anyway, that book was really, really great in helping me write different lyrics for film and TV. Okay, so if you've watched this all the way through and you've made it to the end, I've got a little bonus for you. If you are curious if a song or two you have is the kind of song that will work for sync, then email me at becky@voxfoxproductions.com, and in the subject line, write sync song ? And I'll know that you're emailing me from this video. And I'm happy to just give you some feedback. Give me a few days. It usually takes me a few days to get to my email anyway. So give me a few days. I'll give it a listen and give you some feedback. What works for sync is something, again, if you go back and just listen, you start getting the idea of what works. And it's really all about music that will complement what's on the screen. The mood, the vibe, all has to align with what we're seeing visually. And again, that might be like a song you'd hear and go, that's not a very good song, but it so perfectly fits a mood. Or the opposite, like, oh my gosh, this is a hit song, but is it, ever going to work in a scene in a movie? Maybe not. So anyway, if you're confused, you want some feedback on your own music, feel free, send me probably no more than 3 songs, and just put sync song ? In the subject line, and I'll be happy to share my thoughts with you. Thank you for joining me. See you again soon.